Bayeti,
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 Bayeti Nkosi, Bayeti, King of Kings, Bayeti, Bayeti Nkosi, Bayeti Nkosi is King of Kings.
Who
can match your greatness?
Who
can know your power? Who can search your riches? Who can deny you a crown, Lord of all?
Iwo mugambi ya bebe talanta, talanta yo na yo mugambi, talanta yo na yo mugambi, ya wabira asimuloba. Iwo mugambi ya bebe talanta, talanta yo na yo mugambi, talanta yo na yo mugambi. Yawabira asimuloba, iwo mugambi yabebe talanta, talanta yo na yo mugambi, talanta yo na yo mugambi, yawabira asimuloba. Thank you, and welcome to another edition of Fishmonger Stories. My name is George, but I go by the name of Fishmonger Stories. Don't forget to subscribe to Fishmonger Stories, like this channel, leave a comment. Go to our playlist. We have over 45 teenage stories, over 39 African riddles to see if you are as smart as an African child. We have over 55 stories specifically for children. We have over 40 stories for general audience. We have over 49 inspirational stories. Today, I have a story for you from Nigeria. Are you ready for this story? Can I tell you a story? Ivo mugambi ya bebe talanta, talanta yo na yo mugambi, talanta yo na yo mugambi, ya wabira asimuloba. Ivo mugambi ya bebe talanta, talanta yo na yo mugambi, talanta yo na yo mugambi, ya wabira asimuloba. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Ikwaramogi. Once upon a time, Apo zamani za kale, Chongilala. Oh, there was a king. This king was a very powerful king. This king, he was powerful enough to lead his men to battle and wise enough to deal with issues of the people pertaining to their daily lives, yet gentle enough to raise two sons. Oh, this king, he had two sons that he loved both equally. His oldest son, his name was Okonkwo. Okonkwo was a chief of the old block. Okonkwo was just like his father, the king. Okonkwo, he could fight in battle. Okonkwo, he was good with his spear. Oh, Okonkwo, he could throw 4 spears at the same time and kill 4 enemies 1 kilometer away. That's how good Okonkwo was with this spear. A chip of the old block, just like his father. On the other side, the other son, his name was Ikemefuna. Ikemefuna was the complete opposite of Okonkwo. Ikemefuna, he was not a fighter. Ikemefuna, he liked to grow fruits and vegetables. While Okonkwo fought, Ikemefuna, he stayed home. While Okonkwo played warrior games with the rest of the warriors, Ikemefuna, he played his fiddle at home, singing songs. Oh, Ikemefuna, he was so good at playing the fiddle. Men, women came from all over just to listen to Ikemefuna play that fiddle. While Okonkwo was a warrior, Ikemefuna was not. He was quiet. He stayed at home, planting fruits and vegetables and playing the fiddle. He played the fiddle so good, he would often praise his father. Oh, my father, you are the greatest king who ever lived. And the father, he loved the way Ikemefuna praised and played songs of praise and adoration to his father. Two different sons, loved both equally by their father, the king. Can I tell you a story? Are you ready for a story?
Hadithi hadithi!
Hadithi njoo!
Hadithi hadithi!
Hadithi njoo!
Paukwa!
Pakawa!
Sahani!
Ya mchele!
Giza!
Ya mwizi!
Kiboko!
Ya mtoto mkorofi! Auta!
Can I tell you a story?
Get on with
Can I tell you a
this!
story?
Get on with this!
Hopi uyaide!
Hopi uyaide! Lukamba!
Hopi uyaide!
Hopi uyaide! Lukamba!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Nikwaramogi, as time elapsed, the king, he realized that he was not the same man anymore. It was time for him to relinquish the seat. And so he called his elders and told them, as much as I have led you into wars and battle, I realize that I have to relinquish the seat and hand it over to someone else. The people, the elders, they were sad to see their king go, but they realized that these were the times that they were living in. And the king said, I will choose one of my sons to be my successor. And the people, they smiled because they knew the king would choose his son, Okonkwo, who was even a better fighter than his father. But the king, he told them, when I leave, I have made up my mind that I'm going to choose Ikemefuna to be the next king. And the elders were stunned. They were in shock. They could not believe it. How? They thought, this goes against our culture and traditions. One man stood up and said, but Your Majesty, this has never been done before. This is against our culture, our tradition. And the king stood up. I am the culture. I am the tradition. I have made my choice. I have chosen Ikemefuna to be the next king. I have chosen Ikemefuna to succeed me. If you don't like it, there is the door. How dare you question my decision? The elders were in shock. They were confused. They couldn't believe it. They were stunned. They rose up to leave the palace, shaking their heads, not understanding what had gotten into the king to make such a decision. A day passed, but the king did not call for the ceremony to crown the new leader. And they thought, oh, I think the king perhaps has changed his mind. He has realized the folly of his ways. 2 days passed, but the king did not call for the ceremony. 3 days, in fact, a week passed, And the elders believed the king has changed his mind. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Nikwaramogi, by the end of the second week, the king called for the big feast, the big ceremony in which he was going to hand over the throne to his next successor. Oh, the people, they gathered from far and wide for the festivities. There was plenty of food, delicious things to eat, delicious things to drink. The people, you could see the sadness and the joy in their face. They were going to miss their king. At the same time, they were looking forward to Okonkwo being the new king, the chosen one. Oh, they gathered, and the atmosphere was filled with joy. Music played, songs being sung. It was long. The royal horse was brought, adorned in purple and royal chains. This royal horse was brought so that the king or one of the king's men would hold the hand of the successor and help him to mount onto the king's horse and parade, so the people may celebrate the inauguration of the new king. Oh, the horse was brought, adorned in purple, glittering chains. And the king, he stood up and he walked towards the horse. He looked behind at the podium. There stood his two sons, Okonkwo and Ikemefune. Okonkwo, he was dressed in his royal regalia and a spear in his hand, which never left his side, as a mighty warrior that he was. Ikemefune too was dressed in his royal regalia with a fiddle in his hand. Oh, the king, he went and he looked at the horse and patted the horse. And he turned around and brought the horse. And the two sons inched closer. Okonkwo, he had a big smile on his face. And he started to walk towards his father. And his father, he stretched his hands. And then he pulled Ikemefune. And helped Ikemefune mount onto the horse. When the crowd saw this, when Okonkwo saw this, his face fell to the ground. He was in shock. He was hurt. He was dumbfounded. He was confused. He did not know what he was seeing. The crowd was in silence. Everything went silent. In fact, the birds that were flying up went in silent because they realized something was wrong. The crowd hushed. Nobody spoke. For they were in shock. What were they witnessing that was so confusing to everybody that no one could understand or comprehend? Even Ikemefune himself was confused as he was being helped onto the horse. Okonkwo was so dumbfounded he could not believe it. In shame, he shook his head and started to walk away from the podium, walk away past the square, and he picked up his horn, one of the horns of a buffalo that he had killed with his bare hands. He picked up the horn as if to strike his father in the head with the horn. But he did not. He just picked up his horn and walked away in shock and disbelief. He walked away past the square, outside into the edge of the forest, and he sat down and he started to play his horn. He blew into his horn and he started to play a very sad tune. He blew into it and played a very sad tune. And the more sad tune he played, tears fell from his eyes. And he played sad tune from the horn. All of a sudden, you could see the clouds start to come together. Dark clouds formed quickly, and all of a sudden it became so dark in the square you could hardly see your hand. You could hardly see who was standing next to you. Okonkwo, he continued to play a sad tune from the horn of the buffalo. He played a sad tune. Before you know it, there was a crack of lightning. And the lightning struck the ground right next to where the horse was standing. And Ikemefune, he fell down from the horse, dead instantly. The father, he ran down, and the elders, they tried to resuscitate Ikemefune, but he was dead. The father, tears rolling down his eyes, kneeling before his son. All of a sudden, he realized that he had lost both sons. The elders, they said, perhaps your majesty, we should consult with the oracle to let us know what is going on. The elders quickly consulted with the oracles, and the oracle said, this all is happening because Okonkwo is playing a sad song. This all is happening because of the pain of Okonkwo. And Okonkwo, he continued to play a sad song. He continued to blow into his horn. And the king, he said, please, go and bring my son back. Go and bring my son. The elders, they ran to the edge of the forest to talk to Okonkwo. But Okonkwo said, no. I have been ashamed. I have been embarrassed before my peers. I cannot come back. And he continued to play the sad tune. Oh, the elders came back and told the king, Okonkwo is not coming back. And the king, he summoned all his strength and wobbled towards the edge of the forest where Okonkwo continued to play a sad song. And he fell down on his knees before his son and said, my son, I am so sorry. Tears welling down his face, tears welling down his royal gown. I am so sorry, my son. I have realized the errors of my ways. I have wronged you in such a way that I cannot imagine. Forgive me, son. And Okonkwo, he looked down on his father and saw the tears of his father, and he shook his head. He looked at the king. He looked at his father. He reached down and grabbed his father, and he smiled and gave him a big hug. And as they were hugging, Okonkwo, he started playing a different tune. He started playing a different song. And as he played a different song, the atmosphere started to change. As he played a different song, the atmosphere started to change. The clouds started to dissipate. And all of a sudden, clear clouds came. And the sun, the ray of the sun came down and glowed upon the body of Ikemefune. And Ikemefune came back to life immediately, just like that. Oh, when the crowd saw this, Okonkwo and his father, they walked back towards the podium, and the whole family was united. The father, he looked at his two sons. He looked at Okonkwo and he mounted him onto their horse and said, son, you deserve to be the king. Son, not only are you going to be a great king, but you're going to be a king full of empathy and forgiveness. And you deserve to be the next king. Oh, when Ikemefune saw his brother sitting on the horse, Ikemefune, he rose up and he picked up his fiddle and he started to play beautifully. Oh, saying, oh, my brother, you are going to be the best king ever. Oh, my brother, full of empathy and forgiveness. You are going to be the best king that this land has ever seen. And the two brothers looked at each other and they looked at their father. And their father looked at his sons. And he raised their hands and says, thank you, thank you, thank you. Iwo mugambi ya bebe talanta. Talanta yo na yo mugambi. Talanta yo na yo mugambi. Yawabira simuloba. Iwo mugambi ya bebe talanta. Talanta yo na yo mugambi. Talanta yo na yo mugambi. Yawabira asimuloba. Iwo mukambi ya bebe talanta. Talanta yo ya yo mukambi. Talanta yo ya wo mukambi. Yawabira asimuloba. Until then, asante sana, obrigado, gracias, shukriya, arigato, dankeschön, merci, katonda akusereke, zaijian, sheshe, firmilenge, tutida adong arom gibao makanera. May I grow as the tallest tree in my uncle's homestead.
Ya mchele,
giza,
ya mwizi,
kiboko,
ya mtoto mkorofi, auta.
Can I tell you a story?
Get on with this. Get on with this. Opi uyade, lukamba. 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 Opi uy